At Arkansas, a week after leaving the team, defensive back Miles Slusher is going to enter the transfer portal. He made this announcement on social media. The junior has had an up-and-down season and was held out of 4 games due to injury and was also suspended for the LSU game. And speaking of the NFL draft, Arkansas's Jaden Hazelwood has announced that he plans to leave Arkansas and enter the NFL draft. Hazelwood came to Arkansas after 3 seasons at Oklahoma and led the Razorbacks in receiving this season.
How about Missouri getting the win over Arkansas Stench to become bowl eligible, too?
Man, what a finish for the Missouri Tigers. Was an up and down year, to say the least. Excellent play along their defensive line, and Drink ecstatic to make it to the postseason.
Another team that's going to a bowl was the Missouri Tigers. Big win for them over Arkansas. And the fact that you and I both called this. We both thought that Missouri was going to win this game against Arkansas. Arkansas had played 2 physical straight games in a row, but Missouri's run defense was a little bit better. Brady Cook ended up having a fantastic game for him. And I think important that after he gets a contract extension, you go to a bowl, right? You get those 15 practices, and Missouri punches their ticket to one of those games.
Brady Cook, let's talk about his improvement. From where he was in the first 6 games of the season, had thrown 6 interceptions, including a costly pick 6 against the Gators. Second 6 games of the season, only throws 1 interception. So I thought we saw him evolve. The defense was lights out, setting up Missouri's offense with some short field opportunities. But at the end of the day, they celebrated looking at the excitement of Coach Drink there and the fellow his players getting to the 6-win mark, getting to the postseason, getting an opportunity to play. You get that reprieve. It's almost like being on death row there. That's a bad analogy, but you get a chance
the call for the
stay of execution, right? You get 15 more practices, a chance to keep your season alive, a chance for the seniors to play with the program for another month. It did mean a lot. You could tell that with the excitement they had after the game.
There's no doubt about that. So a good victory for the Tigers.
I'm going to bold blitz you here with some games to watch. Some of the first ones. Kansas, Arkansas, that's a fun one in the Liberty Bowl. You got Texas, Washington.
The battle against Kansas, against Arkansas.
That's why nothing gets by you.
Be careful with that.
And KJ Jefferson said he was coming back, so he's not going to be an opt-out threat. You got the Sark After Dark Bowl, Texas and Washington.
All right, let's look at Arkansas. Arkansas in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. In Little Rock a couple weeks ago, they were all fired up at the possibility of playing in Memphis, where they'll have a ton of fan support, and they will be facing the Kansas Jayhawks, who haven't been to a bowl game since the early 1800s, it seems. But Lance Leipold's done a great job with that KU program. Remember the 5-0 start, though. They did lose 6 of their last 7. So a good opportunity for Arkansas against KU in Memphis in late December, I guess 2008. Not quite the late 1800s, but the early 1800s. Look at these two, though. Geographically, neighbors. But they haven't played since 1906. I would have never, ever guessed that. We also will call this the Jeff Long Bowl, if we would like to do that. Talk about Arkansas, what you want to see from them in the last time we see them in this season.
What I want to see from Arkansas is KJ continues to put together games to where once he gets the heat check going, understanding I'm not going to force the ball, be the leader that he is, double threat, and then defensively, I really felt like Arkansas played their best defense of the season, taken with the exception of the last game of the year. They really gave the formula, I thought, not that Georgia needed it, to beat Jaden Daniels versus LSU. So I'm excited to see them just finish what they started up and down year defensively.
For me, it's going to be the health of Arkansas. Can we see what the best version of Arkansas late in the season? You got 3 weeks to try and heal up. They have been beat up, beat down all year. They had a tough non-conference schedule. They handled it all, and they have arrived. They're in a bowl game, and it still means a lot to seniors and a lot of guys on this roster to win bowl games. It matters. And so all the guys will show up, and they're going to try and finish this thing the right way because Sam Pittman holds them accountable to that, and I think they want to do it for him.
I think both teams will show up and ready to play. I mean, the fact that you mentioned it, Dark,
Kansas hadn't been one.
And Kansas was the story of the first half of the season. Jalen Daniels was tremendous out of the gate, then the injury against TCU kind of derailed their season a little bit. But
Unfortunately, I think for Kansas, this is a bad matchup for them. They're last in the conference in the Big 12 when it comes to points allowed per game. They're last in the conference when it comes to rushing yards allowed. That's something that we know Arkansas can do, not only with their running backs, but also with KJ as well.
KJ and Rocket Sanders going up against the worst run defense in the Big 12 and a team that's lost 6 of 7. Yeah, you like this if you're
I might need to change my guaranteed pick.
Yeah. Now that you starting to process a little bit more there. All right, so that's KU and Arkansas. All right, let's look at the West in general. We'll take a look at the final standings or the final regular season standings and where we sit right now. 5 teams going bowling. Auburn and A&M, the 2 that are not. But everybody in this conference won at least 5 games, which is quite a testament, quite a statement.
Matt Zenitz, who is one of the best reporters, among the very best in the whole country, is reporting at this hour that Barry Odom, the defensive coordinator at Arkansas, is heading to UNLV. Remember, he was 25 and 25 in 5 seasons as the head coach at Mizzou. He's been one of the most important people. In fact, he was the most important hire that Sam Pittman made. He made it the day he was introduced, and it's a big loss for Sam Pittman, who faces a critical offseason trying to figure out how this season completely got away from him.
It's time to give out some SEC football awards. It is that time of year, Pat Bradley.
You're in the giving season.
We are
Look at you, generous.
We are in the giving season, starting off with Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker, the Offensive Player of the Year after leading FBS with a 27-2 touchdown to interception ratio. He finished second in the nation in QBR, threw for 285 yards per game. The Defensive Player of the Year, that's Alabama linebacker Will Anderson Jr.
Yeah, he takes.
You know his nickname?
And he gives shots.
His nickname is the Terminator.
Oof.
He led the SEC in sacks for the 2nd straight season. Freshman of the Year, we're going to talk a little freshman on the basketball court, but this freshman on the football field, Quinshon Judkins, he leads the conference, 1,476 rushing yards as a freshman. To say he took the league by storm would be quite the understatement. Coach of the Year, Kirby Smart. This is the 2nd straight season that Kirby Smart has taken home SEC Coach of the Year. He led the Georgia Bulldogs to their first 13-0 start in program history. He's the 6th person to be named SEC Coach of the Year in back-to-back seasons. And some more awards announced on Wednesday. Georgia's Jack Podlindsey was named Special Teams Player of the Year after leading the conference with 23 field goals. Austin Williams is Scholar Athlete of the Year with a 4.0 GPA at Mississippi State. And Arkansas's Ricky Strongberg won the Jacobs Blocking Trophy after not allowing a sack all season.
Michael Bratton joining us. He is the host of that SEC podcast. Michael, always great to see you. Let's start in the portal. We don't think you're in the portal. You're behind a microphone. But what should we expect in the portal over these next few weeks?
I mean, it's been madness, Paul, and it's not even been a week. Half the SECs got at least 10 players in the transfer portal, and 3 of them in particular I got my eye on, Paul. A&M's got 19. Arkansas's got 14. Ole Miss, they're getting ravaged, but Alabama as well, Florida, throw them into the mix. But I think the 3 you really got to look at, Alabama, Arkansas, and A&M, because they all underachieved based on expectations of those fan bases going into the season. The transfer portal can be a blessing, or it can destroy you. Are the locker rooms, are the programs under those head coaches, are they trending down? I think you can make the argument for all 3. At the same time, we look at guys like Brian Kelly, what he did at LSU, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss. The transfer portal can, in a single offseason, revitalize your program. So I think those are the 3 that we got to watch the most. Alabama, Arkansas, and A&M. What do they do? Because they're losing guys like crazy. Who are they going to add to make up for these losses? And that's the biggest question in the SEC to me right now.
Well, let me ask you about Arkansas. That was the lovable puppy we all love to cuddle and pet and talk about what a great guy Sam Pittman is. He's still a great guy, but his team doesn't look too hot after a major disappointment. What does it look like down the road for him?
Yeah, and he just lost his best assistant to UNLV. Barry Odom gone. Barry Odom won him a handful of their top wins over the last 2 seasons. So this is going to be another critical decision. And like I said, they're getting ravaged by the portal right now. That could be bad, or it could be good, Paul, because just based on how the season's played out, based on what I'm hearing, there's some division in that locker room. They're getting KJ Jefferson back. They've got one of the best running backs in the SEC in Rocket Sanders. As long as Kendall Briles comes back, I've got confidence that the offense will be fine. But the defense, it's going to be very, very difficult, short of maybe Jim Leonard, who I don't think he would have interest going to Arkansas. Short of that, I don't know how you upgrade over Barry Odom. So how Sam Pittman handles this is going to be paramount. How do they attack the transfer portal? They got more money than they know what to do with it. Some of those big-time businesses down there in Arkansas, will they spend in the NIL? Because at the end of the day, the transfer portal, I think, regardless of what anybody's telling you, Paul, and you know this, the number one, all these decisions are going to be based on NIL. And we need to see commitment from a program like Arkansas if they're going to land some premier players out of the transfer portal like they have done the last season or two.
All right, let's look at Arkansas. Arkansas in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. In Little Rock a couple weeks ago, they were all fired up at the possibility of playing in Memphis, where they'll have a ton of fan support, and they will be facing the Kansas Jayhawks, who haven't been to a bowl game since the early 1800s, it seems. But Lance Leipold's done a great job with that KU program. Remember the 5-0 start, though they did lose 6 of their last 7. So a good opportunity for Arkansas against KU in Memphis in late December, I guess 2008. Not quite the late 1800s, but the early 1800s. Look at these two, though. Geographically, neighbors. But they haven't played since 1906. I would have never, ever guessed that. We also will call this the Jeff Long Bowl. If we would like to do that. Talk about Arkansas, what you want to see from them and the last time we see them in this season.
What I want to see from Arkansas is KJ continues to put together games to where once he gets the heat check going, understanding I'm not going to force the ball, be the leader that he is, double threat, and then defensively, I really felt like Arkansas played their best defense of the season, taken with the exception of the last game of the year. They really gave the formula, I thought, not that Georgia needed it, to beat Jaden Daniels versus LSU. Yeah. So I'm excited to see them just finish what they started up and down year defensively.
For me, it's going to be the health of Arkansas. Can we see what the best version of Arkansas late in the season? You got 3 weeks to try and heal up. They have been beat up, beat down all year. They had a tough non-conference schedule. They handled it all, and they have arrived. They're in a bowl game, and it still means a lot to seniors and a lot of guys on this roster to win bowl games. It matters. And so all the guys will show up, and they're going to try and finish this thing the right way because Sam Pittman holds them accountable to that, and I think they want to do it for him
I think
well.
both teams will show up and ready to play. I mean, the fact that you mentioned it, Dark, Kansas
hadn't been one.
And Kansas was the story of the first half of the season. Jalen Daniels was tremendous out of the gate. Then the injury against TCU kind of derailed their season a little bit. But unfortunately, I think for Kansas, this is a bad matchup for them. They're last in the conference in the Big 12 when it comes to points allowed per game. They're last in the conference when it comes to rushing yards allowed. That's something that we know Arkansas can do, not only with their running backs, but also with KJ as well.
KJ and Rocket Sanders going up against the worst run defense in the Big 12 and a team that's lost 6 of 7. Yeah, you like this. If
I might need to change my guaranteed pick.
Now that you starting to process a little bit more there. All right, so that's KU and Arkansas.
The winner of the 2022 Heisman Trophy is Coach. You do honors.
And the winner for 2022, Caleb Williams, Southern Cal.
Thank you very much.
We are also looking ahead to recruiting day tomorrow. It's the first of 2, but it really has now become the de facto national signing day. And Tom Van Haren joins us to talk about what it means. Tom, thanks for the time. Always great to see you. It seems like I'm hearing so much about Alabama as we head toward tomorrow. A big pickup today, expected tomorrow with 2 of the top players in the country. Let's start with Bama. What does it look like for them?
It looks good. You know, they did not finish with the number 1 ranked class last year. That was Texas A&M. And something in me, Paul, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but something in me thinks that maybe Nick Saban didn't like that Texas A&M finished number 1. So now they've got 2 5-stars in the class. You mentioned a big flip today. They've got a shot at 2 more 5-stars tomorrow as well. I think they're going to close strong, and I think it's probably going to be hard for anybody to catch them for that number 1 spot. We've got Georgia right behind them, but if Alabama closes how we think they are, I don't think Georgia's going to be able to catch them, and Miami right behind them. So Alabama, for me, they've added in a ton of pieces. They've added in a lot of depth and guys that they can bring in and develop, and some immediate impact prospects as well. A really, really good class from top to bottom. It's more of what we're used to from Nick Saban on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, and one thing about Nick Saban, and many have learned, don't count him out yet. His program may have had a shaky season, and they may go 2 years without, or 2 years without winning a title, but they know how to handle recruiting day. Beyond that, you mentioned Georgia. It's almost like, okay, big deal. Another top 3 class for Georgia. What do they look like?
Yeah, it is kind of, that's what's becoming normal now for them. Ranked number 2 overall, and you know, I look at some of the positions that they have maybe lost, or maybe they're losing quarterback along the defensive line. It seems like, and even in the secondary, it seems like Kirby Smart just continues to reload. And the positions that they haven't filled yet, especially along the defensive line, there's a couple big prospects tomorrow that are considering Georgia that I think are probably going to pick Georgia as well. And so even though they can't catch Alabama, or they might not catch Alabama, this is still a really good class for them. They're going to add some more tomorrow. I think Kirby Smart's probably going to sleep well after tomorrow, knowing the prospects that he's got coming in.
You mentioned Miami. They are moving fast, but I'm particularly interested in Florida, because they needed a sensational class to get things rolling again. What do they look like a day out?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are, they always look at recruiting and say, well, this team didn't have a great season. How are they recruiting so well? And a lot of times what we tell people is the impact is usually a year out. And so for a new coach like Billy Napier, the sales pitch or the recruiting pitch right now is that we need guys to help. We need prospects to come in and help us fill out this roster the way that we want. And so they've utilized both recruiting and the transfer portal to try to fill needs. You know, it's been pretty remarkable. Some of the new coaches that we've had, they've recruited really, really well this class. Billy Napier is included in that. Brent Venables at Oklahoma as well. You throw in Mario Cristobal too, that they've had a lot of success. And I think Billy Napier knows what he wants, knows what he needs to build, and they're going out and trying to build that. Now, if that works, if they're able to have success on the field, that's yet to be seen. But I think they're still in that phase, Paul, where they can tell recruits, we don't have everybody that we need just yet, so come here and help us build that roster, and now we're seeing that in this recruiting class for them.
Tom, LSU also has a coach there at the exact same time as Billy Napier. What does Brian Kelly's class look like?
Yeah, Brian Kelly, everywhere he's been, he's recruited at a high level, and he brought Notre Dame to a different level. And at LSU, he's pretty much what I would equate to what Billy Napier's done as well in balancing out the transfer portal and high school recruits, where initially when he was first hired, he brought in a lot of transfers to try to fill those immediate needs. We saw that in quarterback with Jaden Daniels and some other positions as well. And so now they're in that stage where they can really build the foundation of the class through high school prospects. And there's a cornerback, a 5-star cornerback that's going to announce this week. I think they're in good position to land him, and they're going to close strong with this class as well. So I think everything that Brian Kelly has done on the field is only going to help him in recruiting in this class, but probably the next class as well. So I'm watching. We've got them outside the top 5, top 3 right now, but I'm watching this next class. If Brian Kelly can push through and push up, have a good season again next year, if they can push into that top 3, I think LSU is a school to watch in the future, because Brian Kelly knows the blueprint of what it takes to have success and what he wants to build, and it looks like he's building towards that right now.
Tom, you mentioned closing well, and certainly there are so many aspects to that, but there's also the portal, nearly 2,000 players in there. What is going on in there that we should be paying attention to?
Chaos is going on in there right now. You mentioned it, almost 2,000 players since December 5th, not even total, just since December 5th, which is an astronomical number. It's incredible. Now that's across all levels. That's not just FBS prospects. But the quarterback market has been really good this offseason. We've seen some big names. Devin Leary today, I had a source tell me that he's probably going to commit to Kentucky. Grayson McCall from Coastal Carolina is still available. Shedeur Sanders, Deion's son, he's in the transfer portal as well, and it looks like he'll probably go to Colorado, but it hasn't been made official yet. Spencer Sanders out of Oklahoma State as well. So there are some really, really good quarterbacks that are available and that have already committed to some schools. And I look at immediate needs for some of these new coaches. I mentioned Oklahoma, Brent Venables. He's got a need on defense. He's added a couple really good defensive players. Deshaun McCullough from Indiana, a linebacker who was a true freshman this past season. He's an outstanding prospect. He committed to Oklahoma. And then I'm actually looking at Michigan. Typically, Michigan does not take in transfers, but this offseason they have been very, very active. They've taken in 3 offensive linemen, 2 from Stanford, Miles Hinton and Drake Nugent, and they've been able to add Coastal Carolina linebacker Josiah Stewart that's going to help in the pass rush as well. So Michigan, not typically a team that we see very active, but they're reloading that roster, trying to stay consistent, trying to consistently make it into the college football playoff as well.
Tom Van Haren, on the eve of National Signing Day, it just seems so early for those of us who used to set our calendars, Tom, by that first Wednesday in February.
We continue to move through National Signing Day. Let's talk Arkansas, another team out of the SEC West. Speaking of somebody who can balance the portal and recruiting, Sam Pittman has certainly done that over the last few seasons as well, about to enter his 4th season with the number 21 overall class right now, 8th in the SEC. Their top signee right now, number 87 in ESPN's 300 rankings, tight end Luke Hobbs. What do you expect from Haas?
Yeah, listen, they need some tight ends. They lost Knox. So they've got 2 in this class, 2 ESPN 300 tight ends. You start with Luke out of Bigsby High School. Bigsby is a high school in Oklahoma, Bigsby just outside of Tulsa. They have won multiple state championships. You look at a tight end, what can he do as a receiver? You know what, Roman, he reminds me a little bit of Brevin Jordan in the way that he plays. See the abilities of route runner, but really what stands out and where he's going to really help this team, not only as a receiving weapon, he is an aggressive blocker. They've actually at times had to tell him to ease up because he was drawing penalties, trying to drive guys into the sideline. But you love a tight end, especially in that offense. You better be able to block, and he's shown he can do that.
And Sam Pittman, there's no better offensive line coach than Sam Pittman. This guy gets the best out of everybody, and he's going to love the addition of another great blocker, put another tackle out there, let him continue to blow guys off the ball. What I just saw to everything out of Arkansas was that they signed 10 defensive signees. Yeah. And what they need to build on that side of the football is more defensive depth, more playmakers on that side of the football. We see what happens when Arkansas figures some things out, especially under Odom. Barry Odom's a great defensive coordinator, mixes things up every week. But if he doesn't have guys to fill in the X's and O's, it doesn't matter what you draw up on the board. They need to get more big-time players on that side of the football to help kind of make a complete team of Arkansas. Then they can make a really run at this thing in the SEC West.
And new defensive coordinator out there in Fayetteville as Barry Odom took the job.
Oh, my gosh,
job. You've been skiing. It's fine. You've been on vacation since the season ended. It's okay. That's what we're here for. I want to go back to something that Roman mentioned a moment ago about getting banged up throughout SEC play, and that was something that we saw Arkansas deal with from a quarterback standpoint with KJ Jefferson throughout the season. They signed a quarterback in Malachi Singleton. Hobbs, what stands out about him? What are Arkansas fans getting in that QB?
Outstanding athlete, a player who topped a 103 SPARK rating. That is Nike's version of athleticism that combines size and speed and all those type of measurables. You're over 100. You're very athletic, so he can certainly move, create outside the pocket. He's got good arm strength as well. So you start to put all those things together. Who does he sound a little bit like? KJ Jefferson. So, I mean, they've kind of got out and got a player who I think certainly is in that type of mold. And again, in that type of offense, you want to be able to run the football. And if you've got a quarterback in those type of situations that can also keep defenses honest with the way that he can move, you've got certainly a player that can help propel that offensive attack.
Quarterback depth certainly important. Even if you don't see them on the field this upcoming season, the ability to sit behind in a room and learn the system, learn the expectations is really important.
When you talk about, playing for championships, it can fall on deaf ears if you're not close. And certainly, we didn't win the SEC championship, but we can see that we've got a football team that can compete at the highest level.
I really don't want anybody to be here that doesn't like practicing hard and doesn't like going to school. And those are the two prerequisites for playing at Georgia.
Every time I take pictures with the guys that graduate, when they walk up to me and I shake hands with them and congratulate them, the first thing that comes to my mind is their home visit. When I was in their home, whether we had fried chicken or whatever the situation was, that's the first thing I remember.
To get two of the top players inside the state, and guys will be able to help us for a long time.
Players that are going to play in this game missing practice because they're on official visits to other places because they're in the portal. So it is a very strange time.
And I'm really ready to attack this portal. I'm ready to attack it. We know exactly what we need to change our football team.
Welcome back as we take a look at last year's signing class rankings compared to this year. You see some schools that have gone up, some schools that have gone down. Look at Florida. They finished 32nd in the 2022 class, last in the SEC, and Billy Napier looking to close out his first top 10 class as the head coach of the Florida Gators.
And this is what it looks like right now. It's in the SEC, Alabama and Georgia, the annual battle in late December. LSU making a move at number 3. How about Florida at the 4 position? Tennessee, South Carolina in the upper division, and last year's all-world champion Texas A&M. They went from 1 in the country, best recruiting class of all time. Right now they're behind South Carolina. 17th overall for Jumbo Fisher.